Hey, Brian Liston, how you doing?
Good to see you. How are you?
Pretty good, pretty good.
Are we gonna do our Appraisal Institute mock trial this year?
Yeah, it looks like it. James Smith leading the way.
Yeah. Are you gonna beat me up again?
Yeah.
Good to see you, Commissioner.
Yeah, good to see you too.
Good evening.
Good evening.
We are now live. This is a regularly scheduled meeting of the City of Elmhurst Zoning and Planning Commission. Pursuant to the governor's orders, we need to first check to make sure everyone can hear us. So I'm going to go through this to make sure. So let me ask, Emily, you are in the applicant room. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
Thank you. Assistant City Manager Mike Kopp, you are in the public comment room. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
Commissioner Callaway, can you hear me?
Yes, I can, Chair Rose.
Brian Liston, Esquire, can you hear me?
Yes, I can. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Commissioner Hoffman, can you hear me?
I can. Thank you, Chair Rose.
Mr. Mark Barbato, can you hear me?
Hear you. Thank you.
Mr. Brett Duffy, can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
Ms. Therese Simoncelli, I hope I said that correctly. Can you hear me? Please, can you, I'm not sure, I might see you. Can you hear me? She's waving her hand. Okay. Kiki Andriopoulos, a court reporter, can you hear me?
Yes, I can. Thank you, Chair Rose.
Okay. Mr. Zemer, can you hear me? Okay, I saw you mouth yes, that sounds good enough. Commissioner Snyder, can you hear me?
Yes, I can. Thank you.
Commissioner Uditsky, can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
Commissioner Garland, can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
Thank you. Mr. Bill C., can you hear me?
Yes.
Thank you. Mr. Cohen, can you hear me?
Yes, ma'am.
Commissioner Burns, can you hear me?
Yes.
Commissioner Pittman, can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
Ms. Seamus, can you hear me? That a yes? Okay. Mr. Frayne, can you hear me?
Yes.
Mr. Janos, can you hear me?
Yes.
Mr. Benson, can you hear me?
I can.
And Mr. Abuna, can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
Okay, I think that's all. Excellent. Eileen, I'm going to ask you to please call the roll to establish a quorum. And let me ask everybody, just, it looks like everybody does, but to please keep your mic on mute unless you're speaking.
Commissioner Burns.
Here.
Commissioner Callaway.
Here.
Commissioner Garland.
Here.
Commissioner Hoffman.
Here.
Commissioner Pittman.
Here.
Commissioner McCoy is absent. Commissioner Snyder.
Here.
Commissioner Uditsky.
Here.
Chair Rose.
Here. Here, we have a quorum. Thank you, Eileen. The first item of business is public comment. This is a time in our agenda when if anyone has any comment really around zoning that they would like to make, this is the time to do it. I would encourage you, however, if you want to comment on one of the cases, the 4 cases we're considering this evening, that you wait until we consider the cases because then your comments will become part of the public record. If you speak now, that will not occur. So let me first go to Mike Kopp in the public comment room. Mike, is there anyone there who wishes to make public comment?
No, there is not.
Okay, we need to check both email and voicemail to see if anyone at home wishes to make public comments. So would you please give us about 30 seconds and we will check those.
Chair Rose, there are no voicemails for public comment.
Thank you. Emily, Eileen, is there any any emails?
Not for this public comment portion of the agenda.
Great, thank you. Then we'll move on to the next item of business, which is receipt of written communications. Let me ask Eileen, are there any other written communications that we've received that were not on board docs?
No.
Okay, we have none. Then we'll move to business in front of the committee. The first item is Commissioner Callaway.
Thank you, Chair Rose. I don't mean to be out of order, but I think it's necessary just to get this on the record. I want to congratulate you for having been awarded the Daryl Whistler Service Award. I think I can't think of anybody who was more deserving of that, given all of your years of service, specifically on the zoning committee, but certainly as an alder person before that. And I think you have been an exemplary city servant, and I'm glad to see that you've been recognized for all of your years of dedicated service.
Thank you very much. That's very much appreciated. Thank you very much. It is, I'll just say, it's really, those of you who knew Daryl Whistler understand to me what an honor it is to receive this award that really recognizes the contributions of Daryl Whistler. And I am indeed honored and humbled by that. So thank you. I appreciate that. Okay. Can we have a motion and a second to approve the minutes of the February 22nd meeting?
So moved.
Commissioner Snyder, and a second? Commissioner Pittman. Are there any additions, deletions, or corrections anyone would like to make?
Second.
Okay, seeing none, I'm going to ask Eileen Franz to please call the roll.
Thank you. Commissioner Snyder.
Yes.
Commissioner Pittman.
Yes.
Commissioner Burns.
Yes.
Commissioner Callaway.
Yes.
Commissioner Garland.
Yes.
Commissioner Hoffman.
Yes.
Commissioner Uditsky.
Yes.
Chair Rose.
Yes, the minutes are approved. Thank you. The next item of business is the first case we have in front of us, the Chitin Plat of Subdivision. So I'm going to ask
Chair Rose, before we start,
Commissioner Burns.
I'm going to recuse myself from this matter since the applicant and I had a vendor-client relationship prior to the application being made. And I'm not sure if the city attorney would consider this to be conflict of interest, but just out of abundance of caution, since we did have that relationship, I did some appraisal work for him in relation to part of the property involved in this application. And so I'm going to recuse myself and shut off my video and audio until the case is over.
Thank you very much. I appreciate your openness in letting us know that. Just so everyone knows that, however, when the vote comes, that Commissioner Burns's vote will be recorded with the majority, however the majority votes, one way or the other, because he is recusing himself, his vote will be recorded with the majority. So, okay. So let me first hand this. Eileen, will you be handling this or will Emily? All right, I'm going to ask Eileen to please introduce this case to us, and then we'll ask the petitioner to speak with us about this case.
Thank you. This is case 21P04. The application was filed February 4th, 2021. The request is for a preliminary and final plat of subdivision at 299 and 309 South Prospect. The applicant and owner is William Chitin. Because this is a subdivision, it is a public meeting, not a public hearing, and the notification requirement was the posting of a sign. That was done February 11th, 2021, and our public meeting is this evening, March 2nd, 2021. This is a situation where the applicant owns 2 adjacent properties and is going to be moving one of the lot lines to add 10 feet to the northern property and take that same 10 feet then from the southern property. This type of request typically can be done administratively, but these 2 lots in total are greater than an acre, and that is not something that staff can approve administratively.
Okay, thank you very much. Emily, is the applicant online or is it?
I'm here.
Mr. Chittenden.
Yes.
I could guess. Please give us an idea about what you have in mind. We've all looked at the material and just give us your perspective.
Sure. First, I appreciate all your time this evening, and I really don't have a lot to add to what's been explained in the application and the staff report. It's pretty straightforward. As Ms. France said, we're simply moving the lot line between the 2 properties south 10 feet so that the 299 will be a little bit larger and 309 will be a little bit smaller. The resulting lots, however, are both well within the minimum lot area requirements and also the minimum frontage requirements. So it's really intended as far as a purpose to just provide us a little more buffer for a potential home that's going to be presumably put on the 309 lot at some point. So we get a little more green space for everybody, especially us. And then, you know, we'll be eventually demoing the house that exists there and hopefully selling the lot to a person who's going to want to put a place up there. So we don't have anything to add to that. If anybody has any questions, I'm happy to take them.
Okay. Before we get, let me go to commissioners and ask if commissioners have any questions at all. Commissioner Snyder.
Yes, thank you, Chair Rose. I just want to verify that in the staff report, it says that if this is approved, there will be a setback encroachment. So I just want to circle back. I believe you just said that you will be demoing the house that exists so that any potential buyer wouldn't come along and necessarily, rehab the existing home or add on to the existing home. So that home you're going to tear down yourself. Is that correct?
Yeah, it'll either be the buyer paying for it, but it will not be sold without that in mind. The house will have to be demoed.
Okay, so the setback encroachment would then be remedied with the construction of the new home.
Yes, and it would be subject to the setback requirements based on an 85-foot lot, which is, I think, 10%, so 8.5 feet.
Okay, thank you very much.
Anyone else? I have a question that's just purely out of curiosity. When I looked at the plat, and perhaps I'm looking at it incorrectly, it looks like lot 1 will have this little peg leg. That's when you're adding to it. I'm just curious why you're doing that.
Well, it's kind of unavoidable. I get one either way. I guess we decided it made the most sense to just draw the line straight back rather than have a property post sort of floating out there in the middle. But so that's why we did it. If there's room, we might put a tool shed back there, but otherwise it'll just be landscaping.
Okay, yeah, I was just curious. It was kind of like.
Yeah, it's unfortunately, that's the way the cottage hill lots stick out a little bit more. Everything's a little bit different around us.
Yeah. Yeah, land use is often has to go according to the topography and where the lines are drawn. So, okay.
It goes way back.
Any other commissioner have a question or comment? Okay, seeing none, I'm going to ask if there's any member of the public, Mike, in public comment who wishes to make a comment on this case.
There is no one here for public comment.
Okay, let me ask Emily and Eileen to please check voicemail and email to see if any member of the public wishes to make a comment.
Chair Rose, there are no voicemails for public comment.
Thank you. Eileen, any emails? There are no emails, so we will then close the public meeting. This is not a public hearing. It would be our intention to move into deliberation on this case at this point, unless there's any commissioner who objects to that. Sometimes I feel like I'm in one of those old-fashioned movies, let anyone speak now or forever hold their peace if you have an objection. So to deliberation, but seeing none, we will move into deliberation. So what I will need is a motion and a second to deliberate this case. Commissioner Callaway moves, and a second, Commissioner Pittman. Thank you. Commissioner Callaway.
So I would move to approve this. I think these are always kind of easy ones, and frankly, probably always feels like the city staff should just have the ability to do this, but it's good that, you know, according to our transparency laws, that we do bring this before the public. So, but I think certainly Mr. Chittenden's request is straightforward. These are two lots that, you know, that are currently of appropriate size. He's looking to subdivide. I have driven by the property, and from what I can tell, you know, the lot line on the south end of the 299 South Prospect, it seems a little tight there. So it would make sense to make that lot a little bit larger, since the house next door on the 309 South Prospect property looks like it, you know, will certainly be torn down. That is prime real estate for sure. So I would expect that there's going to be quite a nice house going up there, and that he will have no trouble trying to sell that property, whatever it becomes at some point. So, but in any event, I would vote to approve this project.
Thank you. Commissioner Pittman.
Thank you, Chair Rose. I agree with everything that Commissioner Callaway said. I think this is an appropriate request. The applicant owns both parcels. To want to make his current home land slightly larger, I think that that's reasonable, especially since both lots are going to be within the zoning requirements for all the setbacks. So I would move to approve this as well.
Thank you. Any other commissioner have any comments they would like to make on this case? Okay. Seeing none, I will ask Eileen to please call the roll.
Thank you. Commissioner Callaway.
Yes.
Commissioner Pittman.
Yes.
Commissioner Burns is recusing. Commissioner Garland.
Yes.
Commissioner Hoffman.
Yes.
Commissioner Snyder.
Yes.
Commissioner Uditsky.
Yes.
Chair Rose.
Yes. Thank you. The motion passes. This does not have to go to DPZ, does it?
It does.
It does. Okay, so this will go to the Development Planning and Zoning Committee. Will that go on Monday?
I believe it will. I'll confirm that with the applicant tomorrow.
Okay. Your next step, this is step one, Mr. Chittenden, of a three-stage process. We try to make it as efficient as we can, but your next step is that you'll go to the Development Planning and Zoning Committee. They'll look at this, and then it will go hopefully quickly to the Elmhurst City Council, who will make the final approval or disapproval, but we are recommending that they approve this. So good luck to you. We hope it goes well and we hope it goes quickly. Are you hoping to demolish and begin construction yet this season, this spring?
Well, not sure exactly, to be honest with you. We'll see how the market is. We've had discussions, but it's something I'd like to do all at once if possible, with the new buyer, but we may have to tear down first, I guess. We'll see.
Okay, right. So that will be done. So the subdivision will be done. So it's not going to hold up anything. So you'll be ready to go. So that subdivision is ready to go whenever you do that. So good luck to you on that.
Great. Thank you very much.
Sure. Okay. Our next case is the Giuliano preliminary plat of subdivision. And this is, does this say public hearing? Public meeting. This is a public meeting as well. So, Eileen, can you please introduce this to us?
Thank you. This is case 21P02. The application was filed February 10th, 2021. This is a preliminary plat of subdivision request to, again, shift lot lines between the properties at 954 and 956 North York. The applicant is James Giuliano, and he has 50% interest. He's a 50% owner of the 954 North York property. Again, this is just a public meeting, not a public hearing. So the sign was posted February 12th, 2020, and then the meeting is this evening, March 2nd, 2021. Just a little bit more background on this case. Both of these properties are on North York. 954 North York is improved with a car wash, cigarette hut, and then an auto repair business to the rear. And the 956 North York property is Wendy's. And there is an area of unimproved land behind Wendy's that the property owners of 954 North York are proposing to purchase and add to their property. If the subdivision is approved and they use that area for parking, it will have to be paved and brought up to all of our applicable stormwater codes to use that property. But tonight we're just looking at the re-subdivision of the two properties.
Okay, thank you very much. Emily, is the applicant there with you in the applicant room?
Rose, yes, the applicant is here as well as the applicant's attorney.
And because this is not a public hearing, they do not need to be sworn in. So we'll give them a chance. Please give us an idea what you have in mind. Just identify yourselves for us, please, and give us an idea what you have in mind.
Take my mask off so you can hear me easier. Can you hear me okay?
Is that Mr. Inskeep?
Yes.
I certainly can hear you fine.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, this, I'm representing the both parties as far as the subdivision part goes. And I have with me, in addition to myself, Mr. Costi Corey, who is one of the owners of the 954 parcel, who is purchasing the parcel in the back of the 956 Wendy's lot.
Any other comments?
To start?
Sure, please go right ahead.
Okay, I've introduced myself and Costi. This is basically a transfer of about 100 to 115 feet. It's 100 feet deep, 115 wide on the back end of the Wendy's lot over to the 954 parcel. And it's designed primarily for additional parking for the 954 parcel. It's currently being used for some parking, but it's very disheveled and weeds and things of that nature there. And this would totally clean that up. The actual lot line, we feel would be approximately about half a foot east of where that fence is now. So it would incorporate the fence And our hope would be to straighten out the fence a little bit as it goes back. As far as the zoning conditions, it's currently C2, as is the property to the north is also C2. Both of these parcels, by the way, are C2. To the east is the only residential that's R2. And I'll show you some things later on, how distant that actually is from this parcel that's being transferred. To the south, it's currently C2. And to the west, the zoning is currently I1, industrial 1. Now to the specific request, we're looking to transfer this portion, which is the 100 by 115 feet, from the 956 parcel to the 954 parcel. It would provide additional parking for the 954 parcel, and the hope would be to clean it up dramatically from what exists today. It's completely surrounded by industrial and commercial type things at the present time. Like I said, the only residential is across York Street to the east, some distance away. In fact, I'll try and bring up a picture later on that shows you a view from the sidewalk in front of the residential properties. You almost can't even see this portion that we're referring to. So we would pave it and landscape it according to city requirements, and we'll put in the number of parking spots that would be allowed per city, and all the dimensions would comply with the city codes. This is really a very straightforward project, very simple in its nature, but very meaningful for my clients. And based upon that, I think if you could bring up some of the pictures here. In fact, you have a way to use this. You said you would.
Oh, I can't. I said we can show the board docs. Is there something different on there?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I've got some pictures here that I'd like to show you. She's getting ready to hook that up. Yeah, those four.
Okay.
Okay, this is the picture from across the street in front of the residential property, looking back, and you can just barely even see the fence in the back of the Wendy's property.
I cannot see this.
You could put the arrow on the fence in the back if you want. The brown fence is all the way back here.
Are you able to see this picture now?
Surely can.
Okay, thank you. Go ahead, sir.
Okay. You can see way in the back, if you see that blue car that's right there in the Wendy's area, directly back of that is where that brown fence is. And that would be the beginning of this, and it's behind that brown fence, this area we're talking about. So you can see it's literally not even visible from the residential lots across the street. Okay, can you put the next picture up?
Yes. This one?
Okay, this is a.
Oh, let me share it with them. Sorry. Apologize, 1 second. Okay.
Okay, this is a picture from the front of the lot looking back. You know, if you're standing between the two parcels on the west side of York Street, it's still barely visible, even from the west side of York Street, much less from the east side. Okay, can you put the next one up? Oh, that was. Okay, this one is a little bit closer. So you can see now what the fence looks like. And it's the portion behind that fence that we would be transferring. Put the next one up. And this is pretty much what that area looks like today. You can see there's some gravel there. And it's currently, there are some cars parked in there, but it's very disheveled. And this is what we would look to clean up in its entirety as part of this project when the property is transferred over. Which, by the way, the parties on 954, we already do have a contract in place that's contingent upon the re-subdivision. And like I stated earlier, this would greatly improve the area from what it is existing and literally of no impact to anybody because literally nobody can see it except the immediate neighbors, and it will be in much better condition than it is today.
On those board documents, I believe there's a sketch of like kind of what it would look like.
Okay, you want me to pull those up?
Yeah.
Can they see those?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep. So let's see, probably is it this? No. This one you want to show?
Okay, that's an aerial view of what it looks like now.
Yeah, you might bring that up, and let's take a look at that too. The area.
The area. Okay.
Yeah, this is the aerial view of.
Get it up here. Okay.
Maybe zoom out just a touch. Oh, right behind the fence there.
Yeah, you can see the fence there, and it's the area right behind there that we're talking about. And what was the other drawing?
I thought there should be the one my son did. Is there one of those sketches or the survey? What's the survey?
That's the actual. Oh, that's your actual survey. And
oh, I thought you had
no.
The sketch that my son did that showed like a future parking lot.
Oh, okay. I don't believe
No.
so.
Oh, no, I don't think so.
Is that? Okay.
So as I stated, the parking, we would work with the city to meet all of their codes and requirements as to exactly how we would lay that out at the present time. And basically, I do have Costi Corey here. If you have any questions from him regarding the project, or if you have any questions of me, please ask.
Okay, thank you very much. Let me ask any of the commissioners. Commissioner Uditsky, you have a question.
A couple of questions. So the fence, just to be clear, the fence is going to stay, correct?
Yes.
Either that fence or another fence. There will be a fence there.
And what's the intent, just for parking, or is this part of like a redevelopment plan for the parcel?
No, it's just parking.
Just parking. Okay. Lastly, there's no like detention requirement or anything for the property. Is that correct? I noticed when we approved the car wash next door, I think there's like a detention area in the back.
Our plan is to design in such a way that there would not be meeting the city requirements.
Yeah, we had a meeting.
If we tried to exceed what would be allowed by the city, then there would be some retention requirements. And also, as we work out the final design, if some is needed there's always the possibility of permeable pavers
Sure.
as part of the
Yeah, we had a
thing if need be.
preliminary hearing
Yeah,
meeting
but-
with the engineer. He
Right,
told
but
us
I don't
that-
think it's going to be needed based upon our meetings with the engineering department here at the city.
Thank you.
Okay, any other commissioner have a question or a comment they'd like to make? Commissioner Snyder.
Thank you, Chair Rose. Yes, it just looks like, and just clarifying, it looks like that parcel in question is currently only accessible from the 954 property. Is that correct?
Correct.
Okay, thank you.
Anyone else have a question? Commissioner Burns.
Yes, just a quick question. One would be for staff. I believe the Wendy's, looks like they have about 30 parking spots. And is that a 4 per 1,000 requirement?
Wendy's would actually be a 10 per 1,000.
10 per 1,000. That's what I thought. So I didn't actually count every single space. I was just going off the aerial. Do we know if Wendy's, as they are currently configured, is compliant?
I believe they are.
Okay. Do we know why, when Wendy's went in, this was probably quite a long time ago, that they purchased the entire site, but they never used the back?
That I do not know. Maybe Mike Kopp knows, but I do not know.
Okay. And then
Good
a question for the applicant, or Mr. Inskeep. Whose cars and vehicles are on the back site, the subject part, right now?
Service and yellow section.
It's the vehicles from the 954 parcel. They've got a repair shop in the back there.
Customers getting their cars repaired are in and out of that lot.
Okay, so is there a current ground lease agreement or some kind of?
Not really a ground lease, just a neighborly. I mean, we've been using it for some time. They've never, when we were friendly with them, they've never minded, so.
Okay, and I mean, they're aware that you're doing that.
Yeah, it's been used on an informal basis. And what we're trying to do now is formalize the process.
Sure. Okay, thank you.
We would like to improve it. We don't want to spend the money to improve it with the current arrangement, but if we can get it, then we don't mind spending the money to pave it and whatever is required.
Great. Any other commissioner have a question or a comment? Commissioner Uditsky?
Yeah, sorry, one more. So does the applicant own the repair shop?
No, I own the I'm out of the camera here, but I own the property. I run the laundromat and car wash myself. The building in the back, I own the building, but I lease it to Joe Gentile Service Center.
Got it. Thank you.
Any other commissioner? Question, comment? Okay, we will then we will not close the public meeting yet. Let me ask Mike Kopp, is there anyone in the public comment room who wishes to make comment on this case?
No, there is not.
Emily and Eileen, can you please check voicemail and email to see if anyone wishes to make comment on this case virtually?
There are no voicemails for public comment on this case.
Okay, we'll then close this public hearing.
Madam Chairman, I do have a request.
Sure.
Due to the nature of this project being as simple as it is and very straightforward, I would respectfully request if you could vote on it this evening to help us move forward with this project.
Absolutely. Mr. Inskeep, that's been one of the changes we've done recently in the Zoning Commission, that unless there is objection, we actually try to deliberate on cases if we can on the same night that they're presented. So that would be my reason. I will be questioning the commissioner. Is there anyone who objects to deliberating it tonight? And we will absolutely do that. So
Thank you.
is there anyone who does object to deliberation on this case tonight? Commissioner Hoffman.
Don't object to deliberation, just a point of clarification. On one of the surveys that's on board docs, it looks like the building's roughly 2,700 square feet, the existing Wendy's, and there are 41 parking spaces. So it does meet the 10 per thousand requirement.
Great. Thank you for that background work on that. Thank you.
Yep.
Let me then entertain a motion and a second to deliberate this particular case this evening. Commissioner Uditsky moves, and is there a second? Commissioner Garland seconds. Commissioner Uditsky.
So I'm in favor of this. I think, like Mr. Inskeep had indicated, you know, it's so far back from the what is generally a commercial street. It backs up to another industrial area. It's back behind a fence. It's really unkept at this point, right, with gravel and brush and whatnot. So it would be an improvement to have that that area paved back there. I don't see that it really is affecting anyone, and it's not a big change either. So I'm generally in favor of it.
Thank you. Commissioner Garland.
Thanks, Chair Rose. Pretty straightforward as far as I'm concerned. I think Commissioner Uditsky laid it out very well. This is clearly an improvement over what's there now, and provided that they're able to secure the property from the current owner. I think this would be a great asset to have done, and certainly improvement. So,
thank you. Any other commissioner wish to make a comment on this? Commissioner Snyder and then Commissioner Callaway.
Thank you, Chair Rose. Yes, I just wanted to point out that additionally with the transfer of this particular parcel in question, that the minimum lot area will still be met and the setback requirements will still be met for the 956 property. So I think that's an important consideration. So everything is still in conformance. And then the Public Works Department, the Public Work Engineering Department and the Community Development Department also find that the applicant's subdivision is in conformance with the ordinance. So I think those are important things to point out, and I also will be supporting it.
Great. Thank you very much. Commissioner Callaway.
Yeah, and this is just a clarification. I think that we need to make a correction on the staff report. I think it just has the wrong property references here. So just a point before we pass this along to the DPZ that we probably need to make that correction.
Can you identify the corrections?
Yes.
So actually, sorry, Commissioner Pittman did point that out to us. So the hard copy that you received is incorrect, but we updated it on board docs already. It had the address from the previous case on the front page.
Correct. Okay. Thanks, Eileen.
Good catch. I also want to make one clarification that this is in the C3 district, not in the C2 district. Is that correct, Eileen? Because that's what the staff report says. So this is C3, not C2. So any other comments, questions from commissioners? Okay, seeing none, I will ask Eileen Franz to please call the roll.
Thank you. Commissioner Uditsky.
Yes.
Commissioner Garland.
yes.
Commissioner Burns.
Yes.
Commissioner Callaway.
Yes.
Commissioner Hoffman.
Yes.
Commissioner Pittman.
Yes.
Commissioner Snyder.
Yes.
Chair Rose.
Yes. This passes. Will this go to DPZ as well? So this will, Mr. Inskeep and the petitioner, this will go to Development Planning and Zoning Committee of the City Council, hopefully on Monday. And hopefully you're pleased with our new, more streamlined, efficient process and can move forward with this. So I think this is a nice thing to tidy up a little part of Elmhurst. So thank you very much. Good luck to you.
Yeah.
Okay. Our next case is a Sterling Bay conditional use permit for a PUD with site development allowances. Eileen, will you or Emily be taking this? You will be taking it. Please introduce this to us.
Thank you. This is case number 21P03. The application was filed February 8th, 2021. This is a request for a final conditional use for a planned unit development with a site development allowance for building height. The applicant is Mark Barbado, who is the agent for Sterling Interest LLC. The legal notice was published February 11th, 2021. The sign was posted February 11th, 2021. The mailing was sent out February 12th, 2021, and the public hearing is this evening, March 2nd, 2021. This is a case where we will have to swear in the applicant and any interested parties who wish to speak.
Thank you very much. In fact, let's do that. I'm going to ask the court reporter, Kiki Andriopoulos, to please swear in. And I also want to suggest that if anyone is here for the next case, the SADC conditional use permit and variations, that they also be sworn in at this time. So if you intend to give testimony or even think maybe you'll give testimony, but you're not sure, I'm going to suggest you raise your right hand and be sworn in by the court reporter at this point.
Do you all solemnly swear that the testimony you're about to give in this cause and the next cause will be the truth, the whole truth, nothing but the truth?
I do.
Yeah. Thank you.
I do.
Okay, thank you very much. We'll now ask the applicant to please give us an idea about this project. This is a sizable project for the city of Elmhurst, and give us an idea what you are planning. We've all looked at this. It's a interesting part of our city, and so give us an idea what you're thinking about this.
Good evening, everybody. Mark Barbado here for Sterling Bay. Can everybody hear me okay?
Well,
I was going to just ask Emily to give Mark the privileges so he's able to share his screen.
Yeah, if you can do that. Yeah, Wayne Zimmer was going to run the screen, but.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
Wayne, are you there?
Yep, I'm here. It says host disabled. Yeah.
Monica, are you there? Oh, okay.
Yeah, I am.
Okay. Ron? Ron? Okay.
Mr. Frayne?
Ron, you're on mute. You might have taken it.
I'm here.
Okay, good deal.
Okay.
And who will be putting it up?
Wayne Zimmer.
Mr. Zimmer, okay.
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah. Hey, Wayne. So, hey, everybody. Thanks for everybody's time tonight. Mark Barbado with Sterling Bay. Really pleased to be here with everybody. Appreciate everybody's time and really excited to take you through our plan for the subject property. So, if you want to take us to the existing conditions slide.
Can you see that?
You can, yeah. There's a fair amount of static, I think, on your line, Wayne. There we go.
Oh, mute.
Great.
It'll really help if anyone who's not talking, mute your microphone and then turn it on when you're ready to talk. That'll help with the static.
So the site we're presenting is 545 Lamont Road, right at Lamont and Grand, and it's a Kellogg property. It's a site that I know extremely well because actually one of my uncles originally developed this site for Kellogg 30 plus years ago. What was then Keebler, prior to Kellogg buying Keebler. So it's a site I know extremely well. And so what you see here, existing conditions, a little over a 9-acre site. It's a pretty specialized property that is a combination of office, R&D, and warehouse space that was built in the late 80s. And being as specialized as it is, there's sort of a limited universe of tenants that could make use of a property this specialized. And so our plan, Lane, if you want to take us to the rendering, is the demolition of existing conditions and the redevelopment of a new modern light industrial property. The sort of reference point that I've given people about the types of tenants that we're looking for fit a similar profile to a different type of renovation project that I worked on, but a building on Lake Street, 545 to 549 Lake Street, was an existing older industrial building that we took through an extensive renovation, and the types of tenants that we landed there, I think, are indicative of the types of tenants that we expect to find on this property. In that case, on the Lake Street project, the tenants that filled that building are Chief Enterprises, which is a designer of electrical components for vehicles. They employ a lot of engineers at that location. And the other tenant, a tenant called PSAV, which is a trade show exhibit producer, and that space for them is a lot of showroom space, construction of trade show exhibits, lighter industrial uses, basically. And so those are examples of the types of tenants that we expect to be attracted to this property. They're lighter uses. The building is not designed for trucking intensive types of uses. Wayne, if you'd take us to the site plan. What you see here is a 150,000 square foot building. It will be designed for either a single tenant or likely a max of 2 tenants. It's a light industrial design. The truck court, one of the things you'll notice about the truck court is that it's not designed for truck trailer parking. There are fewer docks there than you would typically see on an industrial building. We are going to reutilize the 2 existing curb cuts that are, the configuration of this building is basically the same as the existing Kellogg property. Both of those curb cuts for the truck and auto access are the exact same, in the exact same places as they are for the Kellogg property, and we're orienting the building the same way, which is the dock elevation on the west side facing the adjacent building. So as I mentioned, the types of users that we're going to attract there, it's going to be a higher price point building. It's not designed for trucking intensive uses. Trucking intensive uses will look for both less expensive space, but also buildings that are more designed for maximum docks, maximum trailer parking. This is a different kind of product type. So next slide. There are residential properties adjacent on the north side of Old Grand Avenue, and so there are a few important things to point out about how we buffer from the residential areas. The first is that our property line actually does not extend all the way to Old Grand Avenue. There is about a 30-foot buffer of existing dense, tall, mature trees in the Old Grand Avenue right-of-way that will remain in place. And then in addition to that, another about 15 to 25 feet of that dense, mature tree line on our side of the property line that will remain in place. And so in total, there's between 45 and 55 feet of depth of those tall, mature trees between our building and the start of Old Grand Avenue that will screen our property from the residents to the north. And so if you drive that stretch of Old Grand Avenue, you'll see a a variety of sort of density to the tree line that separates the business park from Old Grand Avenue. This particular stretch of that happens to be, the most densely planted with existing trees, and so we're going to preserve that as a buffer from the properties to the north. The next slide is an exhibit that shows the outline of the existing tree line in green. So in yellow is the limit of the trees that we'll remove on our site, but importantly in green, what you see there is between 45 and 55 feet deep of those existing mature trees that are going to remain. Next slide is just a view of that from Old Grand Avenue to give you a sense for what's there. A lot of those trees are literally as tall as the building that we're going to build. And this is obviously a photo shot in the winter, but you can imagine as that fills in the summer, we're taking advantage of existing conditions to screen that and buffer that better than we could otherwise with any improvements. So next slide is just an indication of sort of relative distances to the north property line. Since we originally presented this plan, we've made a couple of changes to it. One is that first indicator of 45 feet, we actually pulled the start of the truck court paving back about a little over 25 feet further south. So it is a full 45 feet away from the north property line. The very first loading area is just a grade level drive-in door, which is, for FedEx deliveries and van traffic and things like that. That we pulled a little further south away from the north property line as well. That's now 65 feet away from the north property line. And then the placement of the first truck dock on the building is a full 140 feet away from the north property line. And then again, add to that the 30-foot right-of-way buffer, and then the width of Old Grand Avenue, and the very first truck dock on our property is a full 200 feet away from the residential properties on the north. In terms of building elevations, all 4 elevations are going to exhibit a variety of colors, building materials. There's glass on all 4 elevations. And then we varied the texture and the patterns of the precast panels just for visual interest to provide some variety on all four elevations. Really importantly, the traffic study that we completed, comprehensive traffic study, concluded 3 really important things about the project. The first is, as compared to the existing Kellogg use, the new plan reduces total traffic to and from this property by 70% compared to existing conditions, which is a big number. Most truck traffic will travel to and from the southwest on Grand Avenue, so again, going away from any adjacent residential properties. And then due to the significant reduction in the total amount of traffic, no off-site improvements are recommended or necessary. And so in closing, Wayne, if you want to just leave the rendering up for a moment. In closing, we think this plan is extremely consistent with Elmhurst's comprehensive plan, strengthening the city's industrial base, but in a thoughtful way to attract the right kind of tenants and employers. We think we meet all 7 standards for the conditional use approval, and want to call out just a few of those that we think we satisfy particularly. The first 3 conditional use standards speak to development that is not detrimental to public health, safety, comfort, and welfare, not being injurious to the use and enjoyment of surrounding properties, and not impeding the normal and orderly development of surrounding properties. And I would make the same general comment in response to all 3 of those standards, which is that we propose to create a modern light industrial property while significantly reducing traffic impact as compared to existing conditions and the historic use of the property. The 4th standard speaks to adequate utilities, roads, and drainage. In this case, adequate utilities and roads are simply being reutilized as is, and drainage is actually being improved with the redesigned stormwater plan. The fifth standard speaks to ingress and egress to minimize traffic congestion in public streets. We are reutilizing existing car and truck access points on an interior business park street. We're not creating any additional curb cuts or access points, and our traffic loads are significantly reduced compared to existing conditions. And finally, we think we comply with all 10 of the standards for PUD approval, notably including not impairing light and air at adjacent properties, adequate buffering from surrounding properties, and a thoughtful approach to parking and traffic, and actually reducing impact on public facilities and resources by providing a plan with traffic impacts that are significantly reduced compared to the historic use of the site. So very happy to answer any additional questions. Really appreciate everybody's time, and in particular appreciate Eileen's assistance through this process to this point. Thanks very much. And with that, happy to answer any questions.
Okay, thank you very much. Anyone else from your team going to testify, or we'll just leave it here?
I think we'll leave it at that. We have various members of the design team that could answer questions either about stormwater or about traffic, but.
Okay, all right. Do you want to pull, well, we might leave up your screen share. People might have some questions about that. So let me ask commissioners if there's any questions from any commissioner at this point. First place we'll go is the commissioners. Commissioner Garland, please.
Thanks, Chair Rose. Nicely done on the presentation. It looks like a terrific building and a terrific use for the property overall. But I had a few questions that hopefully you can help us through. The community engagement. Tell us about your conversations with the community regarding the project.
So we have just had responses from a few people. I think possibly a couple of the neighbors may be with us tonight, but I got sort of, I was approached individually by a couple different neighbors, one, the adjacent neighbor to our east, and then one of the residents across the street, and had just individual conversations to help them understand what the project is. And those conversations went really well, and it was very well received. But I don't want to speak for other residents who might be on this call who want to express their opinion, want to be respectful of that. But in general, we've had very favorable responses to all of our community engagement.
And thank you for that. And it looks like there's currently a retention area on kind of the southeast corner of the property today.
Right.
And it looks like that you're just taking that and based on the use and the layout, parking, et cetera, you're elongating that along the kind of the south and eastern edge of the property.
Right, and our civil engineer is here, Brett Duffy, and he could speak to that, but we're essentially just reconfiguring the existing detention area, which is only, the existing detention is only designed to serve this site. And so we're literally just reconfiguring that to accommodate the site plan, and in the process, adding capacity actually.
And is it usable in any way other than just purely retention?
No, it'll be, it's going to be planted with native plants, so it'll be, you're not going to be able to play ball or do any activities inside of the ponds.
And nothing in terms of outside usability for the office space that would be on site?
So we actually did create, partly through communication with Eileen and recommendation from staff, that there's actually off the northeast corner, I don't know if you can see that beyond people's Zoom screens, but there's actually about a 20 by 20 area that we'll be able to set up for, just sort of lunch tables, picnic tables, places for employees to go to get outside.
Okay, thank you. Really like the idea. I know that there's a buffer along Old Grand, but really like the idea of the extended buffer space that you're putting in place in addition to that would seem to be favorable for the residents on the north side. And really am impressed and like the idea of some reduced traffic, which I'm sure that everybody around there is probably happy with that in mind as well. But can you talk about your two things, your signage package and your lighting package for the site?
So the signage we have, because it's a speculative property and we don't know exactly specifically who the tenant will be, we've just reserved some areas. I don't think it's on any of the images that we have on this screen share, but they're in some of the documents that are posted on the village site, that they're just designated places on the exterior elevation of the building that could accommodate signage for a potential future tenant.
And in the outside, the lighting package for the lot then?
Right. I don't know whether, Brett, whether that's something you can speak to.
Yeah, Mark, we did not prepare the lighting plans for this project. But I believe there are wall packs on the building. I'm not sure if there's anything in the parking lot. I'd have to check.
Okay. Thank you very much.
Thanks.
Okay. Commissioner Burns.
Thank you, Chair Rose. Okay, just a few questions. Going back to the stormwater management issue, there's a recorded easement from 2005 conveying a stormwater easement to the city of Elmhurst. And the easement has a diagram showing where the easement would be located. It looks like it was designed to accommodate underground stormwater piping and so forth. And the new building would require those easements to be moved, I assume. So could you speak to that, what's going to happen with that easement?
Sure. Brett, do you want to take that one?
Sure. Yeah, the existing easements that are going to be in conflict with the building and covering the old storm sewer piping, those will be abrogated, and we'll grant the city new easements over the detention basins and over the storm sewer for the project. So it'll be starting from scratch again. So abrogate the old ones and grant new ones.
Great. Okay. Second question. The building, according to the information in the staff report, will be close to 38 feet to the roof line. And that would give you interior clear ceiling heights of something like 35, 36 feet, I would assume. If you have, say, web joists coming down from the ceiling. But at any rate, assuming that the property is going to be used for light industrial, is the construction with the higher ceiling heights, they're certainly much higher than the Keebler building here, is that to accommodate future warehousing use?
So our contemplated clear height inside of the building is 32 feet, which is comparable to what I think a lot of the properties that I've seen proposed in Elmhurst, and is consistent with just sort of, today's modern specification that tenants require. So it'll be 32 feet inside the building. And the intention is just to maintain flexibility, that there are a variety of light industrial users that still need that kind of clear height for their operation. So the idea is to design, true modern Class A industrial to accommodate exactly the kind of tenant that I think both you and we would like to attract to it. But it's just building to that modern clear height threshold of 32 feet that's really important.
Right. No, I agree that is a standard today. And then the last question is the extent to which you've secured the property. Are you under contract, maybe contingent according to zoning?
Right. So that's a really good question. So we have the property under contract with intention of closing on it right at the end of the month, at the end of March.
Okay. If I can ask you a question that really is not necessary for you to answer on this, but I've noticed industrial land in Elmhurst has broken the $20 per square foot of site area mark, which we used to think was high by O'Hare, but that's been surpassed a long time ago.
Right. Yeah, so I'm happy to speak to that. It's just a market condition. It's the reality of the market that we're operating in right now. This purchase price is north of that $20 threshold, and I'd love to be buying it for less, but the reality of it is that it's just indicative of the market right now. And Elmhurst is a really great location for this type of high image, high end light industrial, and so it's just a market condition. But you're exactly right that's where land values have trended.
Yeah. All right. Well, thanks very much. That's all I have.
Thanks.
Okay. Questions from any other commissioner? Commissioner Snyder?
Thank you, Chair Rose. Yes, a number of my other questions were already posed by my fellow commissioners. So I just want to ask about, the 70% reduction in traffic is really quite dramatic. And I just really want to ask about the change in traffic. Does the Kellogg site, or did the Kellogg site generate much truck traffic? And there's going to be an increase in truck traffic? I'm kind of assuming, but it's a major reduction. The major reduction is in the passenger car traffic. I'm just trying to understand how the traffic or the vehicles will change.
Right. So we do have our traffic engineer here. I'll speak to it, and then if you have anything you want to add to it, but the existing property is a combination of uses. There's some warehouse, some R&D. Those two functions have truck traffic, and then there's the office component. So there will be an incidental increase in truck visits, but the composite of cars and trucks, it's as dramatic a reduction in traffic as compared to a prior use as anything that I've ever worked on. So it's really significant. And again, this plan is a good view of, we're not changing anything about how cars or trucks access the premises. They're the exact same curb cut points that we're using on that interior business park street. So it's as easy of an access configuration as can be. And then again, all the traffic approaching and leaving the site are working away to the southwest, mostly along Grand Avenue. So.
Okay, I was just trying to get a better understanding for how the truck traffic will change versus the current or historical use in your use. And
right.
The overall reduction is really quite dramatic and will be a great benefit to the area, but I just wanted to better understand the trucking.
Great.
Questions from any other commissioner at this point? Okay. I'd like then to move to ask about testimony from the public. Let me first ask Mike if there is anyone in the public comment room who wishes to give testimony on this case.
No, there is not.
Okay, and before I go to people who are online at this point, I'm going to ask Eileen and Emily to please check voicemail and email to let me know if there's anyone else who is watching this at home who wishes to give testimony on this case.
So the only email I received is from someone who is on our Zoom call with us.
Okay. All right. Emily, she's checking. Here she comes.
No voicemails.
Okay, thank you. Then let me open it up. If there's anyone on this Zoom meeting right now who wishes to give public testimony.
Sean Benson.
Sean Benson, Mr. Benson. Okay. Mr. Benson, you were sworn in, correct?
Yes.
Okay,
yep.
Great. You please tell us, you've got 5 minutes, and any questions you have. Again, this is not a Q&A, but we certainly know that the applicant will be listening to those and we'll have an opportunity to respond to those. So please.
Yeah, thank you. And good evening, and thanks to the Zoning and Planning Commission. Thank you for your time. My name is Sean Benson. I'm representing my parents who live across the street at 17W034 Old Grand Avenue. I did attend the neighborhood meeting with Mark previously, and Mark has provided some responses to me via email, which I do appreciate working with that. And I guess I'd like to go through some concerns proposed to the proposed use due to the increased intensity. We just don't want the city of Elmhurst to look the other way regarding the unincorporated residential properties to the north. I believe careful consideration of these impacts to the residents of Oakdale Woods is imperative, and the timing and how quickly this project is moving forward is concerning. I'd like to go through some of the following concerns and questions. Try to get through this quickly. I am available to discuss in more detail, and if the applicant needs time to respond, I understand that as well. Yeah, so obviously the encroachment of the building is getting 130 feet closer to the residential properties to the north, and the building is almost 2.4 times larger than the existing use. The building height is also changing from just under 35 feet to almost 38 feet. And the truck docks are getting 109 feet closer to the residential properties. And the number of truck docks are increasing from 5 to 15. So regarding the truck dock operation, although it's been asked a number of times by myself and tonight, I still don't know any specifics regarding the truck operation and times during the day and the exact number of trucks that are going to be in operation. I envision constant truck traffic, increased noise, increased pollution, and safety concerns. And how will these concerns be mitigated? Although the truck traffic study shows a 70% decrease in traffic, there's no statement on the number of trucks increased from the old operation to the new. And that tonight, that answer has not been provided as well. What is the truck traffic difference from the 5 to 15 truck docks? Traffic report states 56 two-way truck trips a day. Is that the answer? Based on my understanding of the light industrial and high-end client that is proposed, I would think there is some real data or expectation on the number of trucks, since this isn't a typical truck distribution use, supposedly. I've seen statements in the application regarding client not maximizing the truck docks or including as many trucks as space would allow, but what is to keep the truck docks or truck traffic from increasing in the future? So obviously, trucks, you know, that's the biggest concern on my end, and not the car traffic. I guess just one question I had previously was it considered moving the truck operation to the south of the building, which may require building size change or other site redesign? I'm going to move on quickly to screening and landscaping. There is a large landscape area consisting of some scrubby brush and existing trees, which does provide some screening, more so in the summer months and less so in the winter months, which you saw from the picture from Mark. In the winter, you can clearly see straight through and see the building on the other side, which does not provide screening. We need to think towards the future and enhance the landscape screening with additional trees, evergreen trees, etc., to provide solid screening no matter the condition of trees, season, etc., behind the existing buffer. There is a screen fence proposed at the northwest truck dock area, but no detail is provided. This should also include landscaping. There's also an area at the northeast of the parking lot where the berm was cut down by over 4 feet. This area should also have increased screening. I also see there's some utility work through the trees, existing buffer to the right-of-way, and that landscaping should also be mitigated. Screening and fencing may also alleviate some safety concerns regarding kids from the residential properties trying to investigate the industrial area, including a 5.5 feet detention basin. Just a quick comment or question then also regarding the stormwater detention. On the detention basin, it appears to have a flat bottom. Vegetated wetland bottoms are great for water quality. I guess I do have some concerns with the northeast basin and how close it is to the residential, whether that's going to have stagnant water, odor, and vectors and mosquitoes. I guess consider sloping that area for better drainage so there's no standing water during low flooding conditions to cause nuisance to the neighbors in that area.
Mr. Benson, you've reached 5 minutes. I'm going to ask you to try to bring
one
it
last
together.
sentence. Yeah, sorry about
Sure.
that. It
That's
goes
okay.
quickly.
That's okay.
And then, yeah, lastly, has a visual study been conducted showing the building won't be seen from the residential properties on height of the building, new height of the building, ground elevations, and the tree screening, etc. I think that would be beneficial to the residents. And then the last one, there was some lighting on the north side showing wall packs. I was wondering if those could be eliminated. And if they're not, I guess the photometrics don't show the impact on the photometric plan currently. And that's it. Sorry
Great.
I took so long.
No, thank you very much, Mr. Benson. Is there anyone else on this Zoom meeting who would like to give public testimony at this point?
Yes, ma'am, I would like to.
Mr. Janos, were you sworn in?
Yes, ma'am.
Great. You have 5 minutes, please.
Okay. So first off, I'd like to say good evening, ladies, good evening, gentlemen. My name is Mike Janos, and I currently reside at 3N561 West Avenue in Bensonville. That is the corner house. And the first thing I wanted to bring up was the tree line was brought up, with the development. And I would just like to say that the picture that was shown with the tree line was a little like under exaggerated with how thick the picture was actually shown. And that's actually a very small part of that forest line. And that's the thickest part of it, of how the trees are shown. And there's actually a little pond in there, which makes it look bigger than it really is. And if you go alongside that frontage road there, it's actually much, much thinner than the part that was shown. But that brings me to the point, my main concern of it being a privacy issue, because with this ultimately being a much bigger building than the Kellogg's one is, it brings the surrounding neighbors to an elevated stress level, especially during, the cold weather winter months. With privacy, it brings unwanted attention with that part of that tree line going down. And same with the high amount of loading docks, as Mr. Benson brought up. It brings even more unwanted traffic to and from the neighborhood. In the truck idle, especially with it being on the south side or the north side, I guess, of the building, it seems to be, within the 200 feet of residential area, which would, possibly engulf the, neighborhood with more noise, possibly idle flames. And in conclusion, with the concerns previously mentioned, not being properly noted and proper precautions being set forth, this will ultimately lower our property value in the near future, cause aggravation and frustration within the subdivision, and the surrounding neighbors would deeply appreciate if all previous concerns stated were acknowledged due to neighborhood well-being, so unnecessary, and future problems do not arise. And that's all I have to say.
Thank you, Mr. Janos. Is there anyone else who is on this Zoom meeting who would like to give public testimony? Okay. Seeing none, I'm going to return this to Mr. Barbato to usually give you an opportunity. I'm hoping you took notes from the two folks here. If you have any responses you'd like to make to those.
Sure, I'd be happy to. First of all, Mike, we haven't connected, but Sean, you and I have had some extended conversation about this. I appreciate the sentiment. We're very aware that what we're building in context, and we're very aware of what surrounds us. And a great deal of thought actually has gone into how to treat this property specifically in respect to the residents that are to the north of us. So, for example, with respect to the orientation of the building, we've specifically faced the docks directly to the west, facing the adjacent building exactly the way that that truck court is configured on the existing Kellogg property. We specifically did that with. We never seriously considered the possibility. Sean, I know you asked for the docks to potentially be on the south elevation of the building for a number of reasons. It's not practical or feasible for us to do, but we actually did an iteration of the plan that had truck docks facing the north and never gave that serious consideration, specifically out of respect for the residents. So the configuration, the orientation of the building, we gave some serious thought to preserving that depth of the 45 feet to 55 feet of existing mature trees. It's as good a configuration for screening and buffering as we can find, even much more significant than any fencing that we could provide along that elevation. And then in addition to that 30 foot right of way means that the intended 45 foot sort of transition yard actually beneficially acts like 75 feet. In this case, if you made reference to, if you drive further west on Old Grand Avenue, you find a variety of sort of, treatments of that border, including places where there's virtually no screening at all, and including places where truck docks are much closer to the street than we're proposing. So as I mentioned, we specifically pulled the start of the paved area back further to the south, away from the property line. Reducing traffic by total traffic by 70% is as dramatic of an overall traffic improvement as it's possible to make on a site like this. So some very serious thought went into how to make this plan not only as good as it can be, but as good as it can be in the context of what surrounds us. So a lot of thought has gone into to those elements.
Okay, and any other comments, Mr. Barbato, or anyone else on your team? Okay. I will then bring this back to anyone on the commission have any further questions before we move along. Mr. Burns, Commissioner Burns.
Thank you. Just a clarification, and I think I saw Louis Abuna from KLOA there, but the applicant can answer this however they like. On page 14 of your report, traffic impact study, table 6 compares the existing condition to the proposed condition. Am I reading that right? Okay.
Yes,
thanks.
That's correct.
So Kellogg's total was 962 for all their combined uses, office, R&D, and warehouse. And the proposed warehouse is at 282. Now, I believe I saw in your report that this was based on an estimate that the breakdown of the total traffic from the new property would be 20% truck traffic, 80% automobiles. Does that sound right? I think I saw that in your report.
That is correct, Commissioner.
Okay, so 20% of 282 is approximately 56.
Correct.
So it would be reasonable then to say that your analysis implies 56 two-way trips per day on average for trucks.
Correct.
So if we go back to the previous use, assuming full occupancy, the warehouse shows 36, and I assume the warehouse traffic, would that be all truck traffic, or would that also be the 20%, 80% breakdown?
Well, I assume there'll be some employees in there too, so the percentage there may be a little higher, but you could assume about 20-30%.
Okay, because what I'm getting at is based on the existing building at full occupancy, how many trucks would we have per day? How many daily two-way trips that were trucks versus the new condition? So I think we've established the new condition. The projection is 56 on average per day.
Right.
So what can we abstract from the data for the existing property?
I mean, if you assume let's say 20 to 30% of the warehouse, and then, the research and development would typically have some truck traffic generation would be, less than the 20%, typically would be probably around 10%. So you can take that and you can see that you're getting really close to what the proposed warehouse would be generating.
So if the R&D with 436 estimated daily two-way trips was 10% truck traffic, then it would be 44.
Right.
And then the warehouse with a total of 36 daily two-way trips, are you saying 20% of that would be truck?
You can, if you could assume the same thing consistent with what we assumed for the proposed use. So that would be another 7 or 8 truck movements a day.
So with the existing building, your analysis would lead you to maybe 51, 52 per day versus 56 for the new condition.
Potentially, yes.
Okay, I just want to work through that. Thank you.
Other questions or comments by commissioners? Commissioner Garland.
Thanks, Chair Rose. Yes, just a follow-up. I thought Mr. Benson brought up a good question regarding operational hours and what perhaps the applicant can share with us what the anticipated operational hours will be, so that an understanding of what how often or how late, early and late, the trucks would be entering and leaving the facility.
So I would expect, again, we don't, there's not a specific tenant plan yet, but I would not expect hours of operation to be different than the existing Kellogg property or different than any of the rest of the uses that are existing in the business park. I would expect ordinary business hour operation here, consistent with Kellogg, consistent with all the rest of the tenants in the building. I wouldn't expect that to be a difference.
Okay, thank you. And also the screening, and while there's a large buffer area on the north side, as has been mentioned, to what extent do you envision that being solid screening, landscape screening?
Well, the screening that we have consistently referred to is already existing. It's the dense, mature tree line that's existing.
And so on the property on your side of the property, south of the existing screening, will there be additional solid screening, landscape screening?
Some of that is actually on our property line as well. So about the first 30 feet of what's there is on the old grand, on the north side of our property line, and then about another 15 or 25 feet, it ranges, of depth is on our side of the property line as well.
And so what will be between the existing tree line and where the facility starts then will just be green space?
Correct.
Okay, thank you.
Commissioner Pittman.
Thank you, Chair Rose. I just had a couple of questions. One, can you just confirm, and I apologize if this is in here, but I was looking earlier and I still can't find anything that says exactly how tall the current Kellogg building is at the site?
Yeah, so the current Kellogg building is about 34.5 feet tall. And so what we're talking about is an incremental 4 feet, call it.
And then do you happen to know, or does staff know, the height of the adjacent commercial properties? They look to be a little bit lower than what's there at Kellogg, but they are pushed closer to where the applicant is proposing the property line or the building be in terms of property lines. So it's a little bit more applicable in terms of where those buildings are going to sit, because those adjacent properties are also sort of sitting right there too. So I was just curious how tall those were.
I don't know if staff has. I don't know that I have a measure of the height of the adjacent buildings.
Okay.
I don't have that information.
Okay. And then also, would you be willing to plant some evergreen trees in that green space, given that that tree line that's there? I mean, it is going to be pretty thick in the summertime, but it is pretty bare currently. And some evergreens or arborvitae might provide some year-round coverage. Is that something you'd consider?
So we'd be happy to consider that. And as I think Sean mentioned, and as maybe wasn't called out that well on that plan, but there is proposed fencing to screen the length of the truck court itself. But we will be very happy to look for opportunities wherever it's possible to plant additional evergreens to soften that. Would be very happy to add those.
Okay, thank you.
Any other commissioner? I just want to piggyback off what Commissioner Pittman is saying, because I was curious whether, there is another development on the north side of town that we have looked at recently that long ago put a berm there, really as a buffer, a visual buffer. Is that something you had considered or would consider for the north end of that property? It's an expense, I know. It's more than putting in evergreens, but I'm just curious if that had ever figured in any of your planning.
Yeah, I think candidly, and I don't know, I would ask Brett to jump in if you have any thoughts on this, but candidly, one of the things we were trying not to do is to disturb the natural existing conditions of 50 feet of depth of really tall mature trees is, again, as good of a possible natural buffer as we could imagine. And so what we didn't want to do is disturb too much of that in favor of trying to create a berm that would have limited height, whereas quite literally some of those existing trees are as tall as the building that we're gonna build. So what we didn't want to do is disturb too much of that in favor of installing a lower berm. So we're trying to preserve as much of the existing conditions as we could because they're so favorable.
That's correct, Mark. The berm would range probably from 3 to 5 feet along that area, and you would have to eliminate all the trees that are currently there now to be able to get that in there to start berming up.
Okay, thank you. Other commissioners? All right. Seeing none, I will close the public hearing. The question now is whether commissioners, if there's anyone who is opposed to deliberating this evening, if you wish to wait for a further date, if there's anyone who does, or if all commissioners are willing to deliberate this case this evening. Let me ask if anyone objects to deliberation this evening. Okay. See, Commissioner Garland,
Yeah, just maybe a question for you, Chair Rose, and perhaps the other commissioners. And to the earlier question regarding the lighting package and not having, any sense on what that lighting package would be for such a large facility and a large lot, I don't believe that that's immaterial in the context of this overall proposal.
So, Eileen, want to make a comment?
So there is a photometric plan that the applicant did supply, and it does appear to meet our code at being 2/10 foot candle at the property lines, but we'll certainly review that with the applicant.
I missed that, so
that's okay.
Forgive me on that. So,
and there is no variance being asked for lighting at all. So, either time, intensity, or any of that. So. Okay, so I will go back to commissioners, and I will then entertain a motion to deliberate this case this evening. So a motion and a second to deliberate. This is a planned unit development with site variances. And the site variance is primarily the height of the building, an additional 3.7 feet. I think I'm close to correct on that. Actually, a site variance of 2.11, approximately 3 feet site variance just for the height of the building. So can we have a motion to approve and a second? And again, this will now return to the DPZ who first looked at this. So. Takes us a minute to think about this. So, anyone want to make the motion and a second to approve this? I'm going to ask Commissioner Snyder, would you be willing to make that motion? You can say no.
Okay.
And a second. Could we have a second for this? Commissioner Pittman, thank you. You have a great team with you. You have Commissioner Pittman as well.
All right. I believe I'm the first commissioner outside of Commissioner Burns and Commissioner Uditsky to tackle a PUT. And so wish me luck, everybody. All right. And I do want to say thank you to the staff for putting together the additional supplement to review the standards. So thank you for doing that. All right, the first standard is the conditional uses themselves, that the establishment, maintenance, and operation of the conditional use will not be detrimental to or endanger the public health, safety, morals, comfort, or general welfare. I do believe that this condition has been met, and this is not a use that is outside of what the current zoning is. Number B, that the conditional use will not be injurious to the use and enjoyment of other property in the immediate vicinity for the purposes already permitted, nor substantially diminish and impair property values within the neighborhood. So we did hear concerns from nearby residents about the impact on residential uses to the north of the proposed development. I do believe that the applicant has expressed a lot of sensitivity to those concerns and seems to be willing to work with those residents to address any issues that may arise. But I do believe that the current plan as proposed remains sensitive to those residential uses to the north by maintaining that mature landscaping and screening and having moved some of the trucking bays and docks further south than they could have otherwise done. So I do believe that this condition has been met. Number C, that the establishment of the conditional use will not impede the normal and orderly development and improvement of the surrounding property for uses permitted in the district. Again, I do believe that this condition has been met. This is nothing that's being, the use is not outside of what is currently allowed. So I think that's fine. Number D, that the adequate utilities, access road, drainage, and or necessary facilities have been or are being provided. All of that is currently existing. The 2 curb cuts are remaining and being reused. So in the drainage plan they discussed as well. So I do believe that this condition has also been met. Number E, that the adequate measures have been or will be taken to provide ingress and egress, so designed as to minimize traffic congestion in the public streets. I think that the traffic study that indicates a 70% reduction in traffic is really quite dramatic. And I think the entire area is going to benefit from that tremendously. And while the major portion of that reduction is in passenger traffic, there will be some minor, it appears, thank you to Commissioner Burns for doing the math for us on the truck traffic. But it does appear that the level of truck traffic will essentially remain relatively consistent with just a minor increase. And while this is a speculative property and we don't really know who the tenants are, when I look at the design and layout of the streets and the facilities, this doesn't really seem to be a property that's going to be highly desirable for a major truck moving type of business, because there's an unsignalized intersection and there's this little stone median that sort of runs along Lamont Road. And, I just think that the uses and the tenant type that this applicant is seeking that they currently have at the other property they referenced along Lake Street, I really think that's going to be a minimal impact. So I think that this condition has also been met. F, that the proposed conditional use is not contrary to the objectives of the current comprehensive plan for the city. And move on to the next page. For the city. So yes, I also believe that this condition has been met. G, that the conditional use shall in all other respects conform to the applicable regulations of the district in which it is located, except as such regulations may in each instance be modified pursuant to the recommendations of the commission. I do believe that this has also been met. So on to number 2 for the planned unit development, the city plans that the planned development shall conform with the general planning policies of the city's official plans, including but not limited to the comprehensive plan and other relevant plans and planning policies of the city. Yes, I believe that has been met. 3, public welfare. The planned development shall be so designed, located, and proposed to be operated and maintained that it will not impair an adequate supply of light and air to the adjacent property and will not substantially increase the danger of fire. I do also believe that this has been met. The building height is just a few feet higher than what currently exists. And while it is a little closer to the residential properties on the north, it still meets the setback requirements. And I don't think that that's an issue at all. So that's been met. Number 4, impact on public facilities and resources. The planned development shall include such impact contributions to the school district, park district, and/or city as may be reasonably determined by the city council. These required impact contributions shall be calculated in reasonable proportion to impact of the planned development on public facilities and infrastructure. I believe this condition has been met, and there will be no additional resources used by the school district, park district because of this development. Number 5, archaeological, historical, and cultural impact. I don't believe that that's applicable in this instance. So I believe this condition's been met. Number 6, parking and traffic. The planned development shall have or make adequate provision to provide access to and circulation through the proposed use by motorized and non-motorized modes of transportation. So we kind of covered this already and talked about the dramatic reduction in parking, and the number of parking spaces on the plan has been adequately provided. So this condition has also been met. Number 7, adequate buffering. The planned development shall have adequate landscaping, public open space, and other buffering features to protect uses within the development and surrounding properties. So yes, I do believe that this condition has also been met. And again, I would just like to compliment the applicant for really thinking about maintaining the mature landscaping and being open to including evergreens in the plan. And I just really compliment you on being sensitive to those residences. I know it's scary for residents, nearby homeowners to look at a new development going up, but to have an assurance that a developer is really listening to and taking your concerns into consideration, I think that's a huge plus here, and they seem to definitely do that. So this condition has been met. 8, performance. The applicant shall demonstrate that to the city reasonable assurance that if authorized, the planned development can be completed according to schedule. I do believe this condition has also been met. 9, appearance. The design of all buildings, structures, and facilities on the site of the planned development shall meet the design-related recommendations of the relevant city plans, including but not limited to the comprehensive plan. This facility going up looks very much like the other sort of warehouse distribution facilities that we're seeing. They're very modern, sleek, stylized. I think they're very attractive and will be very appealing to tenants of all types. So I believe this standard has been met. Number 10, signs. Any proposed sign package shall be consistent with the character of the development and incorporate signage into the development in a way that avoids visual clutter or sign proliferation. I don't believe they're asking for any outside allowances on this particular sign package, and their sign package really seems to be very well suited to what the facility is. I know they don't have it finalized because of tenants, but they did talk about having a 2 wall signs on the east side that would be facing another industrial use in Grand Avenue, and then the sign package on Lamont Road. So all the signage would really be geared toward the roadways and away from residential uses. And I think this sign package is appropriate. So I think this condition has been met. Site development allowances. This is for the building height, from the height of 35 feet to 37 feet 11 inches to the roof deck. It says 38 feet 11 inches to the top of the precast. So this is really just a minor height variance to help this facility really accommodate a wide range of uses. 32 feet interior clear height is really the new standard and really allows the developer flexibility in terms of seeking tenants of all types. So I think that we can move forward to the standards for review. Number 1, integrated design. A plan development shall be laid out and developed as a unit in accordance with the integrated overall design. This design shall provide for safe, efficient, convenient, and harmonious grouping of structures, uses, facilities, and for appropriate relation of space inside and outside of buildings to intended uses and structural features, utilizing quality building materials and a design consistent with guidelines, policies, and recommendations of relevant city plans. So this is really a well-integrated design. It's only a single facility. It's not a grouping of buildings at all. And I think, it's very in line with, like we talked about, some of the newer facilities that are being developed, the warehouses in particular. There's an industrial development across the street that's very much in alignment with this facility. So I think this standard has been met. Number 2, beneficial common open space. Any common open space in the plan development is encouraged and shall be integrated into the overall design. Such spaces shall have a direct functional or visual relationship to the main buildings and not be of isolated or leftover character. The following would not be considered usable common open space. And then it talks about areas reserved for exclusive use or benefit of an individual tenant, dedicated streets, alleys, vehicular drives, parking, loading areas, or regular or unusable narrow strips of land. I don't think that there's really anything unusual in terms of the space that they're planning. I think that they've provided some open space for all of the tenants to have access in the facility who might enjoy lunch outside or just a break. So I think that this standard has been met. Number 3, location of higher buildings. Higher buildings shall be located within the plan development in such a way. So I don't really think the standard is applicable. This is a single height facility. It's just one building. So we'll move on to number 4. Functional and mechanical features, exposed storage areas, trash, garbage retainers, exposed machinery, installation service areas, truck docks, utility buildings, structures, and similar accessories shall be accounted for in the design and made unobtrusive as possible. They shall be subject to setbacks, special planting, or other screening methods, as shall reasonably be required to prevent their being incongruous with existing or contemplated environment. So really here, I think what's applicable are the truck loading areas, and that they've really intended to, push those as far back as was reasonably and functionally necessary for the facility, and they've maintained the screening. So I think that the landscape screening, and they're open to including more. So I think that this standard has been met. Number 5, visual and acoustical privacy. The plan development shall provide reasonable visual and acoustical privacy for each dwelling unit or tenant space. Fences, insulations, walks, various landscaping shall be used as appropriate. So we didn't really talk a lot about the visual and acoustical privacy, but all of the functions of this facility are really housed within the facility itself. There's not a lot of activity on the outside of the facility. I think that they talked about a fence that's going to be installed and the north end of the truck or the bay area to continue maintaining a privacy there along with the screening. So I think the standard has also been met. Number 6, sustainable best practices. A plan development shall be designed with consideration given to various methods of site design and building location, architectural design of individual structures, landscaping design and infrastructure reflective of sustainable best practices. So we didn't really talk about this, and I am not going to spend a lot of time on this. I believe that all new buildings have to meet a certain level of sustainable best practices. So I will say that this also has been met. And moving into the home stretch, number 7, landscape conservation and visual enhancement. I won't read this whole standard. I think the title of it's pretty self-explanatory, and we talked a lot about landscape conservation and visual enhancement. So again, they've really worked to maintain some of that vegetation on the north end. So I'm going to say the standard has been met. Number 8, drives, parking, and circulation. I think all of that has been really well covered. They're maintaining the curb cuts, and the circulation plan and parking plan looks to be well done and meets all of the standards. So that the standard has been met. Number 9, stormwater. Special attention shall be given to proper site surface drainage so that the removal of surface waters will not adversely impact neighboring properties. So we talked a lot about their stormwater plan and the redevelopment of the retention area there. And the standard has also been met. So I think I'm done. Thank you. I will be supporting this. I think it's a great development, and I do understand and I'm sensitive to the concerns of the nearby residents. It is really, it's a concern to watch something new going up across the street, but I think that we will find the reduction in vehicular traffic will just be a benefit all around, and that the developer really seems to be sensitive to the residential concerns north of them. So I think it's a great development and will be a great benefit to Elmhurst. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Snyder. I suppose I should apologize for putting you on the spot, but you did such an excellent job. I have to say it was a outstanding job. Thank you very much.
Oh, well, thank you. I apologize for reading almost every single word on the standard, but it was my first time, so I wanted to be thorough. I hope I didn't fall asleep.
No, it was outstanding. Thank you.
Thank you.
Commissioner Pittman.
Thank you.
Seconded. Do you have anything to add to this?
Thank you, Chair Rose. I think that Commissioner Snyder did an outstanding job, and Commissioner Burns and Commissioner Uditsky are super happy to pass the baton to you because you did such a great and thorough job. There's not too much I want to add. I concur with everything Commissioner Snyder said. I do believe the conditional use and PUD standards and requirements have all been met. I understand the concerns of the neighbors because the building that currently exists, there's such a greater setback from the road that it seems imposing that building is moving closer. But, they are meeting the zoning requirements of the 45-foot setback. The building is going to be taller, but 3 feet is just, it's not a huge ask in terms of a site allowance for a development of this size. So I don't think that it's inappropriate, especially given the standards of light warehouse, industrial warehouses these days. I will also say that I think that the current building that's on the site, these large single corporate headquarter uses in the suburbs are becoming functionally obsolete, and these light industrial warehouse uses are really moving in to fill these spaces, and I think they're appropriate. So I think that it is a positive development. I think that to echo what Commissioner Snyder said, I do think that the applicant is sensitive to the neighbors. I would encourage them to consider adding additional year-round green landscaping on their property to help buffer. I think that would go a long way with the neighbors. And I think that this is a positive development, and I am in favor of it.
Excellent, thank you. Any other commissioners want to make some comments on this? Commissioner Burns.
Thanks, Chair Rose. Yes, I concur essentially with everything Commissioner Snyder and Commissioner Pittman had to say. It was well presented. So I'd like to focus just for a few moments on the concerns voiced by Mr. Benson, I hope I'm not masquerading your name, Mike, Janos or Janos, as the case may be. So Sean Benson cited trucks, pollution, and safety. And I think in this case, it's worth noting that the number of truck docks for this building is much lower compared to the building size than you would see, say, at a distribution center, say out by O'Hare Field or by out on the I-55 corridor, or those distribution centers down by Joliet in the BNSF or Union Pacific intermodal facilities, that sort of thing. For those kind of facilities, it's not uncommon to see that there's one truck dock for only 3,000 to 5,000 square feet of building area. If we had that for the subject's 150,000 square feet, you might have 35 to 40 truck docks. We actually have 15, which is a ratio of 10,000 square feet per dock, which is kind of on the low side in number of docks per square footage. So that's one element. The number of trucks that would be generated from this. Don't think that just because it's an industrial building that it's generating giant truck traffic. It's actually quite low compared to actual distribution centers. In terms of pollution, it's not a manufacturing use, so that won't generate pollution. The trucks, generally they're required to use what's called ultra low sulfur diesel fuel, which is a mitigating factor. They have to change depending on the seasons. And overall, there's going to be less traffic from this site, as the traffic study showed. So I think the pollution concern would be quite mitigated. There's a safety element. Now, since there won't be traffic from this property going onto Old Grand, I assume that the concern might be traffic of the residents coming out of Old Grand onto Grand Avenue. But if you look at Grand Avenue right now, the traffic is about 30,000 vehicles per day on average. That's very high traffic for any street around the Elmhurst area. And so the additional traffic, the increment from this property will be just a small fraction of what's going on already. And then there was a concern about reduction in property values. And while we can't definitively say whether there would be a property value impact, we can certainly say that there's no evidence in the record that would lead us to think that there would be a property value impact. And one thing I would ask the neighbors to consider is that this business park has been there for many years. And of course, the houses have been there for many years. And while I can't say that this is a definitive conclusion, you might consider the possibility that the homes that are closer to Old Grand Road have already incorporated some level of discount because they're closer to that road, they're closer to the already existing business park than the homes that are further north. I don't know if that's true. You can certainly look into home pricing in the area and satisfy yourself on that measure. But from what I've seen presented in this hearing, I don't have any reason to believe there would be an undue property value impact. So I just wanted to address those concerns. I think the applicant has shown that they were willing to make some accommodations for the owners. I do think some evergreen screening would be nice instead of just all deciduous. And the photometric study does show that the lighting will be at the standards that we require. So I will be in favor of this. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Any other commissioner? Okay, I do want to reiterate part of what acknowledge Commissioner Garland's concern about lighting, but Commissioner Burns as well, that in standard G, and this is what our assurance is at this point, is that conditional use in all other respects conforms to the applicable regulations of the district. So all of the stuff on lighting will be reviewed by city engineers before they're able to get a permit to continue. So that will, we will make sure that that occurs with it. So, okay. Any other comments? I'm going to ask then Eileen Franz to please call the roll.
Thank you. Commissioner Snyder.
Yes.
Commissioner Pittman.
Yes.
Commissioner Burns.
Yes.
Commissioner Calloway.
Yes.
Commissioner Garland.
Yes.
Commissioner Hoffman.
Yes.
Commissioner Ditzky.
Yes.
Chair Rose.
Yes. The recommendation to approve the PUD with site variance allowances is passed. This will now go back to the Development Planning and Zoning Committee where it originated. As you know, that's the process. And it may not go back on Monday. Who knows?
I will confirm that with the applicant tomorrow. I think it will. I'll confirm that tomorrow.
Okay. We wish you all the best. This is this is a significant investment in our community. And as with all significant investments, I want to echo what many commissioners have said, that it's always our expectation that new developments are a good neighbor. And I think that the petitioner has presented information that confirms to me that it is their intention to be a good neighbor. And so we will certainly hope and believe that that will be true. And this will be certainly a good addition. It's the same use that we have with some differences. So we wish you good luck with that, and we'll move forward then.
Thanks
Good
very
luck.
much. Thank you all.
Sure. Okay. We will move on to the last case we have, which is the conditional use permit and a number of variations at 828 and 836 North York. And Eileen, are you taking this, or Emily? Emily, will you introduce this case to us, please?
Yes, thank you, Chair Rose. This is case 21P01. It is a case requested by Marjan Sadiq. Is that Sadiq?
Correct, yeah.
Okay, great. The property owner and applicant. The application was filed on February 1st, 2021. The date of the legal notice of public hearing was February 11th, 2021. The date of the posting of the sign was February 12th, 2021. The date of the first class mailing of notice was February 12th, 2021. And the date of the public hearing is tonight, March 2nd, 2021. Tonight, the requests are a conditional use permit for an existing restaurant, for a drive-through for an existing restaurant, rather, and a conditional use permit for a self-serve car wash, a variation for a building addition for the front yard setback, a variation for the interior side yard setback for a building addition, a variation for parking requirements for the restaurant, a variation from reservoir spaces for the car wash, and a variation for setback requirements for the rear setback along the car wash property. And if there are no questions, I will turn it over to the applicant and the property owner and his teammate.
Okay, before you do, I just want to make sure for everyone's education, both on the commission and those watching this, why this is not a planned unit development, because it has numerous variations, and our really code, the reason we moved to a planned unit development was for something like this, but there's a reason why it is not, and I'm going to ask Eileen if she will please confirm what that is, why this is not a planned unit development.
So it does not meet the acreage requirement, and it's also two separate conditional use permits for each property.
Thank you. But that was my understanding, is that it's the size that doesn't meet it. We also have two conditional uses, but while we've had a lot of planned unit developments, one of the things that it was designed for is for if someone had property and that this was consolidated, it might be a little different and a little larger, then we would not go through every one of these specific variations. So, all right, let me hand it over to the applicant. I'm going to ask you really to discuss the project.
Chair Rose, sorry to interrupt, but they actually do need to be sworn in once you're done.
Okay, that's what I figured they did.
Okay.
That's okay. So I would be interested in to give us a broad overview, and then really you're going to have to go through every variance, and please give it, and the conditional use, and please tell us how they meet that and your rationale for that. But before you do, I'm going to ask you to please be sworn in. Please raise your right hand, and the court reporter will swear you both in.
Okay. Do you solemnly swear or affirm that the testimony you're about to give in this cause will be the truth, the whole truth, nothing but the truth?
I do.
Thank you.
Okay, please.
Okay. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Miryan Sadiq. I am the owner and the applicant of 828 and 836. 836 is Yorkie's Restaurant. 828 is You Do It Car Wash. What we are proposing, what we're here to discuss is us building a new car wash, a new self-serve car wash, a modern one. I'm not sure when you guys were last on York Road, but that's really has become an eyesore next to a brand new building, basically, which is Yorkie's. Also, we are proposing on doing the current patio that we have at Yorkie's right now. We are proposing on covering it and also having big slide windows installed, and also adding kitchen space and prep area, also dry storage area, storage in the back of the restaurant. We're also proposing on adding a drive-through. We are, this is going to be a big project. We are, the curb cuts are going to get moved. I'm not sure which one you want me to start first. Do you want me to start with the restaurant, or do you want me to start with the self-serve car wash? It's up to you guys.
That's up to you.
Okay, so I can start with the self-serve car wash. I was in front of you guys 3 years ago, and we last time I was in front of you guys, we ended up doing Gem Car Wash, which is approximately half a mile down the street from there. It's been a great success. I think it's been a pillar in the community. And last time I talked to you guys, we said that we were going to knock this down. We spoke with our customers. We know a lot of residents that live here, and everybody was bummed to see this go away. Most of these are going away due to the fact that they really can't survive next to a big tunnel car wash such as Gem Car Wash or a new proposed Delta Sonic that is going to get built down the street. But we do believe that there is a need for it. The way that it is right now, we can't operate it any longer. It's really outdated. Everything about it is, we can't really call it we can't really do a remodel on it because there's really nothing to remodel. Everything has served its purpose, and basically what we were proposing, I'm not sure if they've seen the new 3D drawing.
Yeah, I can show that or this photo from, do you want to show this one now?
So the new self-serve car wash will also have, so it'll be 5 bays. There also will be a pet wash inside, and one of the bays will be a touchless automatic. So basically, there's a robot in there that goes around your car and just basically sprays high pH, low pH, which is the soaps that we use, and high pressure water. So basically nothing really touches your car. There's a lot of customers out there that really don't want anything touching their car. And this is a true touchless car wash. This will be a true touchless car wash. So basically the 4 bays will be you do it yourself. And then this will be you pull in, but nothing really touches your car. It's only soap and water that gets applied on it. This is all state of the art, like the laser wash 360, top of the line. The vacuum stations will move. So I'm not sure if you want to pull like a overview on it. Yeah. We're asking for a lot of variations because of the layout, the way that this new layout will, without impacting the traffic flow, this is the way that we believe that it will work best. So basically right now at the property, there's 2 curb cuts on, I believe that's Eastview, correct? There's, oh, Redwood. Okay, there's 2 curb cuts right now on Redwood. The vacuums are in the middle of the property. So basically, I don't know if you want to just, yeah. So basically the way that it is right now, there's vacuum area, there's vacuum posts right here. So basically you pull in and then you get the vacuum, you get the vacuum done. But, if let's say you take 20, 30 minutes and somebody's trying to use the car wash, they really can't because, you're basically blocking the area. It's really an efficient way, the way that it was designed. What we are proposing is we're proposing on putting 4 vacuum stations with a canopy all the way on the west side of the property, doing a green space. Everything right now over here, it's, well, basically it's here on this area right now, which is the southeast corner. There's a curb cut that has been blocked off for years, over 10 years that I can recall. What we are proposing on doing, the way that what we do with this area right now is we utilize it for drive-through traffic. So basically, if you come and order something at the window, we just tell you to pull up over here. What we are proposing on doing is closing this curb cut over here and opening a new curb cut on further down north of the property. Also, we are planning on putting green space over here, bushes, arborvitaes, and also there's going to be a sign. Same thing, plants, green space. So basically, we're requesting a variance to build a car wash, which there is one already on there. But like I said, we can't really remodel that one. It's not worth remodeling it because in the end, it will still be an eyesore if you remodel the current one that is there right now. So the only way to do
yeah, right. I'm just going to interrupt you once, which is that you are requesting the conditional use for the car wash, correct?
Correct. Yes, correct.
Okay.
Yep.
Not a okay, just checking.
Yeah, I'm sorry. Yeah, the variances would be for the setback on the vacuum stations. So basically moving the vacuum stations, they're right now basically in the middle of the parking lot if you pull in. So basically you can't really turn left and right. It was a really poor design when they did it. So basically, we would move the vacuum stations, and they would be all the way on the west end of the property. There's also going to be a shed located on there. Last time I spoke with the architect, I believe he said that that's on code. So I don't know if we're going to need a variance for this.
So it's it is included in the variance currently being requested. The building commissioner has made a comment that there's a building code that the shed currently does not meet as proposed.
Okay.
10-foot separation between the building and the shed, but that could be reviewed at the time of permit to make sure that it meets the building code if that variation is approved.
Okay, gotcha. So, yeah, like I said, we're proposing on building a little shed over here. This will be for materials for running the car wash day-to-day operation, such as hoses, pumps,
motors and everything. Motors go for
correct, yeah. Belts. There's a lot of things that go into operating this. Not sure if you want me to jump in at Yorkies at whatever you want me to. Do you guys have any questions on what this new?
Yeah, before let me just make sure we understand that. So it's the conditional use. Let's just stick with the car wash right now. Conditional use for the car wash, and then variance for the setback for the vacuum station, and a variance in relation to the shed. Emily, can you explain what that variance is? And that's confusing to me.
Absolutely. The variance being requested at the site for the car wash is for the rear setback on the west side of the property for both the shed and the vacuums and canopies.
Got it. Okay.
And then also a variation for reservoir spaces for that business in that section of the property.
Okay. Let me ask the applicant, can you show us where the reservoir spaces are?
So basically, based on the code that you guys have in place right now, I believe there's, and correct me if I'm wrong, Eileen, so if there's one car that's getting washed on one stall, you're supposed to have seven spots behind there, which we took over this car wash about 10 years ago, and that doesn't really happen on this kind of operation. So the code that you guys currently have in place is that if one car is getting washed on one of the bays, you have to have room for 7 other cars basically waiting. There's no possible way to do this on this kind of a property or on this kind of a layout that we have. I don't think that any way you put it, it would work. It operates fine the way that it is right now. The problem is everything that is there is basically garbage. So that's the best way to put it. So in order for us to, like I said, continue with this, it would have to be brand new.
Okay. So do you want to then move to Yorkies? Because that's your second set of, it's a conditional use and a series of variances there. So do you want to move to that at this time?
Correct, absolutely.
Explain that to us.
So we are asking for a variance for parking spots as well. We do own the 828 North York Road, which is the property right next to Yorkies. So we are proposing on doing is actually taking this curb cut over here off. So basically all the employees, there's 3 to 4 cars that park in this property from day to day, the tenants. So we could basically utilize, what we're planning on doing is utilizing the back of this for the employee parking. So basically the employees are not gonna park in this, in all these stalls that are in here. What we are, as far as the build, as far as the remodeling of it, we do have a patio right now, an existing patio that is just basically concrete. And we do have tables and chairs in the summertime, which customers do use. What we're planning on doing is basically enclosing this whole area obviously up to code. And we're proposing on doing slide windows. So basically, anytime, with this Corona and the way that things are going, we are able to, still have the customers inside, open the windows, have heaters there, basically make it more 2020 friendly, or with all the new changes. Also in the back, the whole restaurant business has turned upside down. Basically, we were doing prior to Corona, we were doing 20% of business on the drive-through. Now it's gone to, when the restaurant is closed, it's basically 100% of business drive-through. So we were not prepared for that. We were really not. Yorkies wasn't really designed. When it was built, it wasn't really designed for that kind of operation. We had to change a lot of things inside, and we feel that for us to operate and go through this time would be, the new addition. That would, the back area over here will help us like move the prep kitchen in the back further back. There will be more room to hold dry storage there. It's going to be a locker for the employees, and also like speed up basically the drive-through. So this is basically the drive-through. This will actually, we can take some of this space and utilize it for the drive-through. Correct. So as far as the curb cuts, like I said in the beginning, the curb cut right now, which is located on the north end, it's really somewhere over here. I'm not sure if you guys can see this. It doesn't really line up correctly. So basically, if you pull in, you're actually like pulling in. You have to turn the wheel to kind of like go around. It's not really on the right spot. So we're proposing on moving it to the right spot. So basically, when you pull in, you can either park. You don't have to turn left or right. You can just, go straight, order. And then also so this will be the entrance and this will be the exit. This will be a lot better right now. The way that the customers have to go through, they have to basically go around this corner and try to exit, which makes it a nightmare in lunchtime because there's people trying to get in, people trying to get out. It's really inefficient. So we believe with this new curb cut over here it'll be a lot better. And the egress will definitely, based on the traffic study that we have done, I believe that's on, I'm not sure if you guys have that information. Okay. It would actually greatly improve the traffic flow of that property. Also, as far as these spots over here, the 6 spots, like I said before, right now, what we use those spots for is for the drive-through. Basically, if you come and order something, well, basically what it is right now is a pickup window because we never went through the drive-through application. We never went through the drive-through variants. But if somebody does come and order with the coronavirus, like I said, it's been, people don't call ahead, they just come and order. So what we do is we basically tell them, hey, pull on spot number 1 and we'll bring it out to you. So that's what we're planning on doing with the new drive-through. That's what these spots are basically going to be used for. They can basically be used for the restaurant. Obviously, there's going to be signs, 1 through 6. It's talk about. Guys, any questions?
Let me clarify. So you are asking for a conditional use just for a drive-through to begin with, and then the variations you are asking for are for the front setback, the interior side setback, and the parking requirements. So there's 3 variations you're asking for.
Correct. So basically, the interior setback would be on the south end of the property. So basically, we're going to follow the existing line off the restaurant. So basically this is that line that doesn't really meet the, there's supposed to be a 10-foot setback from the property next to you, and we only have a 4'9", I believe. 4 feet 9 inches, correct. So instead of going back and basically doing a zigzag, it would be following the, following the existing pattern. This is the wall of the current restaurant.
Was a variance for that side setback granted at the time of construction of the building?
What? I don't believe the way that.
I did not see records of that variance for the existing building.
It was the way that we did Yorkies was a remodel, but really nothing really stayed except this wall. This was the only wall that basically stayed when we redid the restaurant.
You're asking for a front setback variance and for a variance for parking. Those are the three variances you're asking for in relation to the restaurant, correct?
Correct.
Correct.
Okay. All right. So do you want to, any other comments you want to make?
Questions, concerns?
Okay. Let me just make sure that you are done presenting, or is there anything else you want to say?
As far as, based on just the conditional use, it's already, just modernizing an already in place establishment, based on the 828, the car wash itself. I know we can go back both ways, being the drive-through is going to kind of go ahead and add on to the pickup window that's already in place at Yorkies. So the drive-through will try to make it a little more effective and efficient, especially like we said, in times of, through pandemics and whatnot like that. Something, a drive-through window would be a little more efficient than a pickup window. And then, based on the conditional use for the self-serve as well, it's a building that's already, it's an older building that it's already in place. So pretty much just modernizing. So we're not changing the character, not altering anything of that such. So we're just trying to, modernize what's already there, try to, keep it going, keep, once things get old, they, start breaking, and it's, at the point of no return. So it's either all or nothing almost for the self-serve, if that makes sense.
Okay, great. Thank you. I'm going to now open this up to the commission for questions. So, okay, Commissioner Callaway.
Thanks, Chair Rose. Could we leave that picture up? Because I think it would be easy. I have a lot of questions. And I'm
gotcha.
It's
okay.
unfortunate that it's 9:33 and this is a pretty complex series.
Yes, it is.
Requests. So, to start with, I will tell you, I think I'm going to have some issues deliberating on this one tonight, even if we have time. But
right, and just so everybody knows, if we don't finish we will end at 10 o'clock and we'll continue the public hearing to the next time we meet. So, not the next, but we'll continue it to a different date. So, ask away.
Okay, thank you. Could you scroll down to the bottom of the picture? I want to start with the south end. Okay. So on the car wash, there's this new curb cut that you're looking at doing.
That's already there.
This curb cut's already there? Okay.
Right. There's two curb cuts right now over there. There's one, the existing one right here. And then there's one more over here, which we are planning on basically taking away and basically putting green space and also parking spots.
Okay, so this curb cut here, you've got all these parking spaces on the west side and the east side. is this intended to be, because it looks like the way you've got these arrows that traffic can come and go from this direction?
Correct, yes. So basically over here, there could be, cars that are done getting washed. They can come around and basically either park over here, which really there's no need to park over here on any of these spots. Unless.
Okay, all right. So let's just stick with me here because I just need you to answer my questions.
Sure.
So if it looks like you've currently got 5 bays there?
Correct.
Okay, so you're not looking at expanding the number of bays, correct?
No, actually right now there's 8 bays there. So we're basically making it smaller.
Okay, so I guess my question is, to start with, you mentioned one of the variations you're looking for is, I think we've in the past called the stacking on Correct. The car wash. How many cars can you currently stack here behind the bays?
So there's about 51 feet. So we'll call it 2 cars. So 2 cars per, so 10, about 10. Oh, go ahead.
Sorry. We are giving credit for at least 1 reservoir space for each of the bays. It's possible that you could get additional cars behind the 1 reservoir space that we're giving credit for, but it was a little bit tight on some of those, so those are not all of these have 2. It's just currently 1 reservoir space for all of these, and then the excess required parking spaces located on the site are also contributing towards that reservoir space count.
Okay, so you lost me. I thought you were required to have, I heard the number 7.
Correct.
Yes. 7 reservoir spaces for each bay. So 35 reservoir spaces for this site.
Okay, so how many, if we need 35 and we have 5 bays here, how many cars can stack here currently?
We are looking at a deficiency of 9 reservoir spaces. So to better answer your question, the requirement is 35 and 26 can be accommodated on this site.
Okay, so what do you mean when you say you're giving credit for?
So in addition to all of these parking spaces, we're giving credit for 1 reservoir space behind each of the bays. So essentially 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 behind each bay.
Okay,
and
but
wait.
I'm as confused as Commissioner Callaway. No,
if you want to,
can someone count these out?
Can I try to answer the? I went through this when we did the other car wash. Can I try to answer the question for you?
Sure.
Okay. So based on the code that you guys have in place right now, if you have 1 car getting washed, you would need 7 spots behind that car. So as of right now, the way that the car wash that we have right now would have to have 56 spots at this location with the 8 stalls that we have. So basically what we have is there's a car getting washed, there's 1 car behind, and then we can count all the other spots. So basically 1, 2, 3, there's 24. How many? 24.
So we have 28 spaces total.
So 28, but based on the code that you guys have, we need 30.
So we'll need 35 reservoir spaces and 2 parking spaces total for this site.
Okay, so is the idea that because you don't have the total number of 35, you can't fit 35 here, are you counting parking spaces to make up that deficit to get to 35?
Correct. we are counting some of those existing or some of those parking spaces.
But in reality, okay, so a couple of things. In reality, if I'm stacking up here to use the car wash, I'm not going to go park in a parking space. I'm going to come out here on Wrightwood and I'm going to be lined up on Wrightwood. I mean, I'm foreseeing that's how this would happen.
Well, the way that it operates right now, and like I said, that the way that we've been operating it for the last 10 years, you can pull records. We've never had, there would possibly one car, that's it. And this car wash gets used mostly in the wintertime for the truck, for the snow plows that come in and big vans. So go ahead. I think he has a question, the commission.
Well, okay.
Is there a separate, I'm sorry to interject, but just to clarify, is there a separate code in terms of stacking for a self-serve car wash versus a full service car wash?
No, I don't believe that it is being counted as a self-serve car wash, to answer your question. So that calculation of 7 reservoir spaces for each bay is for a self-serve car wash.
But to clarify, we would treat a car wash on a conveyor the same way.
Correct. That's what when they did the other car wash, it was the same. There's a one code for everything. You guys don't have separate codes.
So I guess, I'm foreseeing, and when you say snow plows, to me, those are larger than cars. So you've even created, a bigger stacking issue. But I mean, I guess that gets to part of my question here. So if this curb cut on Wrightwood is an egress and ingress, and you've got cars, moving around here, you can, and of course I'm moving my mouse like you can all see it, but on the west side there, I'm trying to figure out the logistics, because there's this piece that kind of juts out that says 40 feet, I believe, that's just east of the Wrightwood current curb cut. I'm trying to figure out how the heck you're going to have cars coming and going out of that entrance when you don't even have sufficient space there to stack 7 cars per bay.
Well, the reason why we're here is because, and the reason why we're trying to do this the way that we are proposing on doing it is because, like I said, I operated for the last 10 years and we've never had this issue of 7 cars behind. I don't believe that's a realistic code. And there's no other car wash like this that meets that code anywhere. It's not, you would need, for 8 bays that I have right now, you would need probably over an acre to go based on the code.
Well, sir, I understand what you're saying, but when you come in for a variation and a conditional use, I mean, these are questions that we need to ask.
Of course.
Well, let me finish. What's happened in the past is, it is somewhat irrelevant because, when you're looking at really redoing this property, and there are parts of this plan that I think are great. I like the idea that you've got some landscaping, those kinds of things, but just understand that we have to ask these questions and we have to make a clear record because, as I look at this, there are some concerning issues. So we're at this point, we're just trying to get some information. And you might say it's an unrealistic code, but it is our code, and we have to live by it. So if we're going to make a variation, or if we're going to grant you a conditional use, we have to understand, what we've got before us.
And I apologize if I said, if I offended you by saying that that's, I just, based on like all the other car washes such as this, it just doesn't really, I don't think that anyone meets that criteria of 7 per bay. But of course,
and that may be the case, but we're not judging any other car washes.
Correct.
At this time. So let me ask you another question just about, and I will then get off of this. I do have other questions, but certainly I'll turn this over to other commissioners. So the curb cut that is on York, that's kind of right between the two properties. Did you say, and this is a current curb cut, right? This is not a new one. It says 47 feet, 2 inches.
47 feet, 2 inches.
Do you see what I'm talking about, right?
This one right here?
No.
Existing storm CB, it says, right?
Okay, that curb cut, okay.
That's going to be a new entry, right? According to that, that's a new curb cut?
Correct. The current one right now, it's further south.
Correct.
Blocked off, and it's been blocked off for as long as I know, which has been over 10 years.
Okay, but so you're proposing a new curb cut there just to the north of that. And is that intended that cars would then, and it looks like that's just going to be an exit, correct?
Correct, yes.
Okay, and that's intended to be used by cars coming through the drive-through as well as cars leaving the car wash, correct?
Correct, yes.
Okay. And I guess I'm wondering, because it looks like you're doing a drive-through business now, but you haven't previously come in for.
We're not really doing a drive-through. When the pandemic hit, there's people, there are customers that do order it at the window, and what we do is we tell them pull up at the spot, but we've never done a drive-through business. What we do is a pickup window. So basically, you call the order ahead. When the order is ready, you come in and you just pick it up. And based on the code, I think that's sufficient with the pickup window.
Is that correct, Eileen?
So I believe the pickup window has been in existence for a very long time, and it's just sort of a grandfathered use. It's never been a traditional drive-through with a menu board. And during the pandemic, we have made some accommodations to allow some more of these pickup window type uses, but the pickup window was there. It's my understanding it's been there for a very long time. And we've, periodically over the years talked about coming in for the conditional use and actually adding a traditional drive-through that you would think of.
Okay, thank you. Do you have other questions, Commissioner Callaway, or you want to?
I do, but I've overstayed my welcome, so I'll certainly permit someone else to ask their questions because I.
All righty. Other questions? I have Commissioner Burns.
Thanks. So for the applicant, I'm looking, keep this depiction up here. The, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 parking spaces that are at the east end of the car wash site along York.
Right.
Did I hear you correctly that you were planning on having people who go through Yorkies, if they have to wait to have their food brought out to them, would park over in those spaces by the car wash?
Correct, yes. So basically, if you come, and that's if something takes a long time, which happens sometimes, or if there's a extremely large order that gets placed in.
Mm-hmm.
And on that occasion, then we just have them, go on, park in spot A, or 1 or 2, or
So the outbound lane, or the outbound curb cut onto York Road, is that only for the Yorkies customers?
That's for both. That's for Yorkies customers and for the car wash customers.
So you're going to have a crossing point because you have people from Yorkies who might be going to park in one of those 6 spaces while
Correct.
somebody's coming out of the car wash to York.
Again, this is me talking from experience and talking on based on seeing this every single day. This is not what you guys would consider like a really busy place. This is for that customer that comes in and has a snow plow and wants to get the snow off the truck. This is for that customer that has a tall van, a construction van, and wants to get it washed. This is for that particular customer that has a sports car that doesn't want anything touching it. This is not for
Well, I will say that I've appraised these kinds of self-serve washes and full-serve car washes. And for what it's worth, in my experience, the stacking for these do-it-yourself is usually 1 to 2. And they're very frequently, the entrance to the bays is oriented toward the entrance from the curb cut. So there's not a lot of room there, but that's something we can maybe discuss when we deliberate. But no, I was just interested in the potential cross traffic. And I know these self washes usually don't generate the volume of the full serve car washes, but for Yorkies, you're greatly increasing the area of the building. Are you anticipating that you will increase the number of customers?
What we're trying to do is make it more drive-through friendly, especially with the new age that we live in now. So basically make it more efficient. And also this area over here, the patio, what we like to do with that is basically enclose it and have like big sliding glass windows. So, anytime the laws change with dining in, dining out, dining with windows open and so on and so forth, to make it more friendly.
What is the 1,253 square foot area that's going to be added on the west? What's that going to be used for?
That's going to be for prep and dry storage, and there's going to be an employee bathroom. I believe that's.
So, because the current footprint is more or less the 3,129 square feet, right?
Correct, yes.
So right now, all of the prep and storage and service counter and seating area is within the 3,129 square feet right now.
Correct,
right?
Yes.
Yeah. So by establishing the 1,253 square foot area, will you have more seating available in the existing area?
The only seating that would be greater would be the 748. So it will only be this patio area, nothing in the back. All this will be basically dry storage, prep, and try to make the
No, I guess what I was asking is there area in the 3,129 square foot footprint that's not used for seating area now because it's used for prep? Because prep will be moved out, you could have more seating area.
No.
Okay.
No, this will all remain, everything will remain all the same. As far as this area, as far as the area inside the restaurant, the only thing that will change as far as to sit more customers would be the patio.
Okay. So now the building to the north of Yorkies is one that you also own?
Correct, yes.
So that building looks like it's about 5,000 square feet.
Correct.
Okay. And now that's an office building, right?
There's 3 tenants there currently. There's a TV repair shop.
Yeah.
There's a trophy shop, and there's a screen printing shop in the basement.
So for that property, if it's about 5,000 feet, if it's Emily or Eileen, if you can tell me if I'm wrong on this, if it would be generally a 4 per thousand ratio on this building, that would require 20 spaces. And I don't know how many spaces are there now, but my question is, if you're going to have some of your employees from Yorkies park on this northern site,
Correct.
Are we running into sort of, if I can use the term metaphorically, a traffic jam of parking use on this north site? Now, I realize you said that hardly anybody parks there now, but in terms of what our code requires, do you have, is there an excess of parking on the northernmost site so that you could have your employees from Yorkies park there and not exhaust the required parking just for that northern building?
I believe I think it's 20. How many? I think it's a 24. I don't think there's even 24. Right
I would have to look at it.
I would have to check, but I don't believe there's even 24 right now over there.
Okay.
So based on that, although some of the employees right now do park there, and occasionally some, a few guys with bigger trucks and stuff, we do have them park over there because there's hardly nobody really parks there. But yes, I don't think there's 24 spots there currently.
Okay. Okay, that's all I have for now. Thanks.
Yep.
I'm looking at the time and we have about 3 minutes. We have about 3 minutes left. So I'm going to suggest we really continue the public hearing at another date and we adjourn at this point because I think we're clearly not going to be deliberating at this point. I think I have a lot of questions and I'm assuming some others do as well. So Mr. Sadiq, we're going to ask you to come back when we're all fresh-minded, and we'll have an opportunity to look even a little more closely. It was helpful to hear some of your plans and understanding verbally. That was very helpful to us. We'll take that, we'll think about that, and we'll continue the public hearing. Eileen, do you have a date when we will be able to continue that?
So I was actually going to bring this up during other business. We realized today that our April 6th meeting is the local election. So we are not going to be able to have our meeting on April 6th. I was going to reach out to the commissioners to suggest Wednesday, April 7th instead of April 6th. So I would suggest that for now we continue this to the first meeting of April, likely to be April 7th. And if it changes, I'll let everyone know.
I think that makes a lot of sense. We'll all have an opportunity to look through this material again. And then hopefully we'll hear some more at that point and we'll be able to move forward with it. So we look forward to seeing you again on April 7th.
Thank you.
After the election. Well, thank you for coming in. And we'll have a lot of discussion really yet to do on this. So thank you very much. So we will close the we will continue the public hearing until April 7th. So thank you and we'll see you again.
Thank you. Thanks all.
Eileen, is there any other business we need to talk about at this point?
No, that was it. Just that I'll confirm with everyone their availability. And that's it.
All right. Our next.
I'm sorry. Can I ask a quick question?
Sure.
So March 16th is our next meeting, correct?
Correct.
And that's Roberto's continued public hearing?
Public hearing. That is correct.
Do we have anything else on the agenda for that night?
No, that's
we
the
do
only
not.
item.
Okay. That's all I wanted to know. Thank you.
So we'll see. So we have a lot of stuff in front of us, but we've been doing really great at moving through this. So I thank everybody really for being able, those first 3 cases, being able to deliberate those tonight. I think that really opens up our schedule a little bit more, and we have a lot of discussion ahead of us. So we will do that. So, all right. Does anyone have any other business that they want to bring up at this point? Commissioner Garland.
One comment I'd like to say to Commissioner Snyder and Commissioner Pittman, job well done on the PUD this evening. So,
really, yeah, you did a great job.
Club.
You did a great job.
I'm honored to have joined the club.
I suppose I could be called an adherent of throw them in the deep end of the pool, which is not always the best, is it? But I really appreciate your willingness to take that over. And I will say again that when I say no is an okay answer, it really is. So if for some time I call upon someone to say, gee, would you do this? And you don't feel prepared or ready to do, you can also decline. And that's
really takes me back to law school, you know, like being called on like that, you know. What do you think, Jordan? You know, without any...
I hated law school, but I like the planning commission a lot better. So,
well, I thank you really, both Commissioner Snyder and Commissioner Pittman. I've never really done that before, but I really thank you for your willingness to pick up on that. That was it's really appreciated. It's very.
You should just be thankful you didn't make them stand up.
Yeah, right. Yeah, maybe in these days of coronavirus, we all have different ways of doing things, but thank you very, and you both did a really superior job on that. So we really appreciate that. So, okay, seeing no other business, we have to call the roll to adjourn. We got to call the roll to adjourn. Eileen, can you call? Oh, we need a motion and a second.
So moved.
Commissioner Burns moves. Commissioner Garland seconded.
Commissioner Burns.
Yes.
Commissioner Garland.
yes.
Commissioner Callaway.
Yes.
Commissioner Hoffman.
Yes.
Commissioner Pittman.
Yes.
Commissioner Snyder.
Yes.
Commissioner Uditsky.
Yes.
Chair Rose.